Hello everyone, here is Afra Syab. Today we are going to solve Cambridge IGCSE Physics Paper 2 Multiple Choice Extended held on February-March 2021 and paper code is 0625 with variant 22. So let's start from question number 1. Question number 1. A student has a measuring cylinder containing water and also a balance. Which of these could she use to find the volume of small metal? Which of these could she use to find the volume of a small sphere? So which one of the following is used to find the volume of the small sphere? She has no other apparatus. A. Either the measuring cylinder containing water or the balance. The measuring cylinder containing water only. C. The balance only. D. Neither the measuring cylinder nor the balance. So balance is basically used for the measurement of mass, but here we have to find out the volume. So here we use the measuring cylinder that contains the water only. So B option is correct. Question number 2. A ball hits a bat with a velocity of 30 meters per second and leaves the bat traveling with a velocity of 20 meters per second in the opposite direction. The ball is in contact with the bat for 0.10 second. What is the magnitude of the acceleration of the ball while it is in contact with the bat? So here we have to find out the magnitude of the acceleration. MCQs A. 1.0 meter per second square. B. 5.0 meter per second square. C. 100 meter per second square. D. 500 meter per second square. So here we are given velocities of the ball when they move and also the time during which the ball is contact with the bat. So here we have to find out acceleration. I use the definition of acceleration, that acceleration is equal to change in velocity over time. Change in velocity is v minus u over t. So it will be equal to final velocity is 20 meter per second minus initial velocity is 30 meter per second, but it is given that after hitting the ball travel in opposite direction, so there will be minus sign, and here is 30 divided by time is given 0.10, so that the value of acceleration will be equal to 500 meter per second square. So from here D option is correct. Question number 3. A train begins a journey from a station and travels 60 km in a time 20 minutes. What is the average speed of the train? So here we have to find out the average speed of the train. MCQs A. 3.0 meter per second. B. 5.0 meter per second. C. 50 meter per second. And D. 60 meter per second. So first of all, average speed is the total distance divided by total time. I write here average speed is equal to total distance divided by total time. Total distance here given is 60 km. So I write 60 multiplied by 1000 divided by time is 20 minutes. So 20 multiplied by 60. And this time is in seconds. So that the value of average speed will be equal to 50 meter per second. So here option C is correct. Question number 4. Which statement about the mass is correct? A. A mass of 10 kg weighs 1 Newton near the Earth's surface. B. Mass is the gravitational force. C. Mass increases when the gravitational field strength increases. D. The greater the mass of the body, the more it resists a change in its motion. So from here option D is correct. Question number 5. A small bottle has a mass of 20 gram when empty. The volume of the bottle is 10 cubic centimeter. When full of liquid, the total mass is 150 gram. What is the density of the liquid? So here we have to find out the density of liquid. For that we also have to know about the mass of liquid. So I write here density is equal to mass per unit volume. It is given that small bottle has a mass of 20 gram when it is empty, and when it is full of liquid the total mass is 150. So that the mass of liquid will be equal to 150 minus 20 gram, which is equal to 130. So density will be equal to mass of this liquid, that is 130, divided by volume, which is given 10. So that the value of density will be equal to 13 gram per cubic centimeter, because the mass is measured here in gram and the volume in cubic centimeter. So from here C option is correct. Question number 6. An object of mass 0.80 kilogram is moving in a straight line at a velocity of 2.0 meter per second. A force is exerted on the object in the direction of motion for a period of 1.0 minute, and the velocity of the object increases to 6.0 meter per second. What force is exerted on the object? So here we have to find out the magnitude of force. First of all, mass of the object is given, also the initial velocity and final velocity, and also the time is given, which is 1.0 minutes, so that the value of force will be calculated by using the formula that impulse is equal to product of force and time, and it is also equal to change in momentum. So from here force will be equal to delta P over T. Change in momentum will be m v minus u divided by t. Now I am going to put values here. Mass is 0.80 multiplied by v is 6.0 meter per second, and u is 2.0 divided by time 1.0 minute, and we have to convert in seconds, so I multiply it with 60, so that the value of force will be equal to 0.053 Newton. From here option A is correct. Question number 7. An object moves at a constant speed in the circular path shown. Which statement about the acceleration of the object when it is at a point P is correct? A. The acceleration is in the direction of arrow X. The acceleration is in the direction of arrow Y. The acceleration is in the direction of arrow Z. The object is not accelerating. So first of all, here we have an object and it is moving into the circular path, and we have to tell that what is the direction of acceleration. So the direction of acceleration will be in the direction of the force. When a body moves into the circular path, the force is acting towards the center of circle, and this force is basically known as centripetal force. Acceleration also be acting in the direction of force, so acceleration will be towards the center of the circle, which is in the direction of C. So from here C is correct, which shows that the acceleration is in the direction of arrow Z. Question number 8. An object is pivoted at point P. A student ties a length of string to a peg of the object. He pulls the string with the force F. What is the moment of the force F about the point P? MCQs A. F cross Q. B. F cross R. C. F cross S. And D. F cross T. So first of all, to solve this kind of question, we have to know that what is moment. So moment of force is basically the product of force and perpendicular distance from the pivot point, which here is represented by the point P. So first of all, I write here moment is equal to product of force and perpendicular distance from the pivot point. Figure here shows P is a pivot point and F is a force that is acting on the string. So the perpendicular distance is basically represented by S, not by the R, Q and T, because all of these vectors are at some angle. So S is only at an angle 90, which means that S vector is perpendicular distance from the pivot point. So from here, moment will be equal to F cross S. So option C is correct. Question number 9. A gas molecule strikes the wall of the container. The molecule rebounds with the same speed. So first of all, here is gas molecule and it is approaching towards the wall. Then the gas molecule strikes with the wall and rebounds back. First diagram is before hitting with the wall and second is after hitting the wall. What happens to the kinetic energy and what happens to the momentum of the molecules? Kinetic energy and momentum. MCQs A. Changes. B. Changes, stay the same. C. Stays the same, changes. D. Stays the same. So first of all, kinetic energy here remains same, it does not change. But when the gas molecule collides with the wall and then they bounce back, there will be the change in momentum. Because first of all, ball is moving with the initial velocity which is u, and when it bounces back there is a velocity v. So there will be the change in momentum which is delta p and it is equal to mv minus mu. So here momentum changes but the kinetic energy stays the same. From here option C is correct. Question number 10. A horizontal force pulls a box along a horizontal surface. The box gains 30 joule of kinetic energy and 10 joule of thermal energy is produced by the friction between the box and the surface. How much force is done by the force? So in this case, work will be equal to the sum of thermal energy plus kinetic energy. I write here work done will be equal to kinetic energy plus thermal energy. The value of kinetic energy is given 30 joule plus thermal energy is 10 joule. So that the work done will be equal to 40 joule. From here option D is correct. Question number 11. A crane is used to lift loads vertically. The output power of the crane to lift a car is P. The crane then lifts a lorry which has 3.0 times the weight of the car through 0.25 of the distance in 0.50 of the time. What is the output power of the crane? No. So first of all, output power is P. After all of these changes, we also have to find out the output power. So first of all, I write here initial output power. It is equal to P. Again, we have to find out the output power when the weight is 3.0 times and it covers a distance of 0.25 in times 0.50. So first of all, we know that power is work over time or rate of transfer of energy. So I simply write here power is equal to work over time, or it is equal to energy over time. So basically work is equal to the product of force and distance. So I write here force distance divided by time, which is equal to power. Here force is equal to mg, that is also equal to weight. So I simply write here mg d over time. So the factor mg is basically here show weight, which is given 3.0 times larger as compared to car. So I write here 3.0 multiply the value of distance is given, which is 0.25 divided by time is 0.50. It is the value of the output power. So it will be equal to 3 over 2. It means that when all of these changes are occurred, then the output power increased by the factor of 3 by 2. So from here option B is correct. 3 over 2 P. Next question number 12. The diagram shows a manometer connected to a gas supply. So here is a manometer. What is the pressure of the gas supply? So here we have to find out the pressure of the gas supply. MCQs A. 100 millimeter Hg above atmospheric pressure. B. 100 millimeter Hg below the atmospheric pressure. C. 200 millimeter Hg above atmospheric pressure. D. 200 millimeter Hg below the atmospheric pressure. So first of all, we know that the pressure of gas is equal to the atmospheric pressure plus pressure due to the liquid. I write here, this is the gas supply. So, total pressure of the gas will be equal to atmospheric pressure plus pressure due to liquid column. So first of all, in this diagram, the pressure due to the liquid column is the difference between these two columns, and I represent it with pressure of liquid. And here is atmospheric pressure. So in the question it is asked that what is the pressure of the gas supply. So this difference is basically 200 millimeter Hg and it is above the atmospheric pressure. So from here 200 millimeter Hg above the atmospheric pressure. C option is correct. Question number 13. The diagram shows a box of dimension 6.0 cm, cross 8.0 cm, cross 4.0 cm. The box rests on a flat horizontal surface. On which face must the box rest in order to exert the least pressure? So first of all, in which side the pressure will be least? So from here in the figure we can see that there are three phases that are mentioned, X, Y and Z. We also know that pressure is equal to force per unit area. From here we can simply say that pressure is inversely proportional to area. The face which has larger pressure, it of course has smaller area. So from all of these, X is a face that has larger area, due to which here will be the less pressure. So in the question, on which face must the box rest in order to exert the least pressure? So on the face X, the pressure will be least as compared to Y and Z. From here, option A is correct. Question number 14. Air in a sealed syringe is slowly compressed by moving the piston. The temperature of the air stays the same. There is no change in the temperature. Which statement about the air is correct? A. The pressure of the air decreases because its molecules now travel more slowly. B. The pressure of the air decreases because the area of the syringe walls is now smaller. C. The pressure of the air increases because its molecule now hits the syringe walls more frequently. D. The pressure of the air increases because its molecule move very fast now. So from here we can see that when I move the piston, there will be compression, but the temperature is still same. So when there is a compression, the pressure of the air will increases because the molecules collide with each other, their collision become more frequently, due to which the pressure of the air increases. So from here, in the option C, it is given that the pressure of air increases because its molecules now hit the syringe walls more frequently. There is frequently collision, due to which the pressure of the air increases. So C is correct. Question number 15. In an experiment, smoke particles are suspended in air and viewed through the microscope. The smoke particles move about with short random movements. Which one of the following statement is correct? MCQs A. Air particles have large mass compared to smoke particles and they move in one direction only. So it is not possible because the air molecules move in all possible directions. B. Air particles have large masses compared to smoke particles and they move in random direction. So it is not possible because here it is given that the mass of the air particle is larger as compared to smoke particles. C. Air particles move at high speeds compared to the smoke particles and they move in one direction. So due to the one direction, it is also incorrect. D. The air particles moves at high speeds compared to the smoke particles and they move in random direction. So from here, option D is correct. Because the air molecules move in random direction and air particles move at high speed as compared to the smoke particles. Question number 16. The graph shows how the internal energy of 1.0 kilogram of metal changes with temperature. So here is a graph which shows the internal energy change with the temperature. The internal energy is measured in kilojoule while the temperature is measured in degree C. It is a straight line between them. What is the increase in internal energy of the block of the same metal of mass 0.25 kilogram when its temperature rises from 40 degrees C to 50 degrees C? So first of all, here we have to find out the increase in internal energy. So going back to figure, from here I use the formula that E is equal to mc delta T. First of all, I find out the value of heat capacity, which is represented by C. Because when we have to find out the increase in internal energy of the block, its material is same as that of the previous metal. It means that the heat capacity of this block is same. So first of all, I find out the value of C from here. and put this value of C to calculate the increase in internal energy. So from here C will be equal to E over m delta T, where delta T is the change in temperature. In order to calculate the internal energy, so from here internal energy will be equal to final internal energy minus initial internal energy, and it will be 830 minus 800 kilojoule, which is equal to 30 kilojoule. Next, what is change in temperature? It will be 100 minus 0. So 100 degree C. Now I am going to put values here. C will be equal to 30 kilojoule. So I write 30 multiplied by 1000 divided by mass is given 1.0 kilogram and change in temperature is 100 degree C. So that the value of C will be equal to 300 joule per kilogram and degree C. So I use this value of the C to find out the increase in internal energy. So again I write E is equal to mc delta T. Again mass is given here 0.25 multiplied by C 300 and change in temperature is from 40 degree C to 50 degree C. So it will be 50 minus 40. So that the value of energy will be equal to 750 and unit is joule. From here option C is correct. Question number 17. A piece of melting ice at 0 degree C and a beaker of boiling water are both in laboratory. The laboratory is at 20 degree C. Here it is given melting ice and there is a beaker that contains boiling water. There is also the Bunsen burner heating water. What is happening to the temperature of the melting ice and what is happening to the temperature of the boiling water? Temperature of the melting ice, temperature of the boiling water. A. Constant. B. Constant increasing. C. Increasing constant. D. Increasing. So first of all, going back to figure, it is given that there is a boiling water in the beaker. So when I supply heat by the Bunsen burner, there will be no change in temperature of the boiling water. After boiling the water, temperature remains same. So its temperature remains same. What's about the melting ice? The heat that is given to the melting ice is basically used to change its phase. Means that the heat is used for the melting of ice. So there is no change in temperature of the ice. Its temperature also remains same. So from here, A is correct, which means that the temperature of melting ice and boiling water is constant. Question number 18. One end of the copper rod is heated. What is one method by which the thermal energy is transferred in the copper rod? A. Free electrons transfer energy from the cooler end to the hotter end. B. Free electrons transfer energy from the hotter end to the cooler end. C. The molecules of the copper move from cooler end to the hotter end. D. The molecules of the copper move from hotter end to the cooler end. So first of all, we have copper rod. So this rod basically contains free electron. All of these electrons collide with each other because these are free. So I heat from one end, then what will happen? When I heat, then these electrons absorb energy. So, these free electrons move from hotter end towards the cooler end and transfer energy to the other electron, due to which the thermal energy is transferred from one end into another end. It means here the free electrons transfer energy from the hotter end to the cooler end. So B option is correct. Question number 19. Which changes will cause or decrease in the rate of radiation emitted by the object? MCQs A. Changing the surface color from white to black. B. Changing the surface texture from dull to shiny. C. Increasing the surface temperature. D. Increasing the surface area. So, first of all, in option C and D, temperature is increased and also increase the surface area. It will causes the rate of radiation emitted to increase. So, here we have to decrease the rate of emission of radiation. So, from here option B is correct, that we can change the surface texture from dull to shiny. A is also not correct because black color is good absorber as well as good reflector. Question number 20. What is the approximate wavelength in the air of high frequency sound that can be heard by the normal healthy person? So in order to calculate the wavelength, we have to know the frequency that is heard by the normal healthy person. So the frequency ranges from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. It is also given that the highest frequency that is heard by the normal healthy person. It means that in our case, frequency will be equal to 20,000 Hz. We also know the speed of sound in air, which is 330 meter per second. By using the relation V is equal to F lambda, I can easily find out the value of lambda. It will be equal to V over F. So V is 330 divided by frequency is 20,000. So the value of wavelength lambda will be equal to 0.02 meter. From here option A is correct. Question number 21. What causes the change in direction when the light travels from air into glass? First of all, I have a block of glass. I make here. So light travels from the air and falls on the boundary of glass. Then what will happen? There will be refraction. If I suppose that this light is falling on the surface, then there will be change of its path and it bends towards the normal. Like that. So the path of this ray changes when the light travels from air into glass. We have to explain its causes. A. The amplitude of light changes. B. The color of light changes. C. Frequency of the light changes. D. The speed of light changes. As the light goes into glass medium, then its speed changes but the frequency remains same. So from here option D is correct. Question number 22. Light from a torch is incident on a plane mirror. The angle of incidence is 38 degrees. What is the angle of reflection? So first of all, angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, which is the principle of reflection. So if the angle of incidence is 38 degree, the angle of reflection will be equal to 38 degree. So from here option A is correct. Question number 23. Two rays with an angle of incidence of 60 degree pass into dilute and concentrated sugar water solutions. The refractions are shown. So first of all, here are two diagrams. First diagram shows air and dilute sugar solution. The angle of incidence is 60 degree while the angle of refraction is 40 degree. Second diagram shows air and concentrated sugar solution. The angle of incidence is 60 degree while the angle of refraction is 35 degrees. Which row is correct? Refractive index as concentration increases. Speed through solution as the concentration increases. MCQs A. Decreases, decreases. B. Decreases, increases. C. Increases, decreases. D. Increases, increases. So first of all, here when the concentration increases, what will be the effect on the refractive index and the speed? So in the diagram 2, we can see that there is a concentrated sugar solution. So the refracted ray will bend towards the normal. And also in this case, the angle of refraction is smaller as compared to the angle of refraction in dilute sugar solution. It means that as the ray enters into the concentrated sugar solution, it slows down. Its speed decreases and refractive index N is equal to C over V. Refractive index is proportional to the speed. So, when the speed decreases, the refractive index increases because N is proportional to 1 over V. So by increasing refractive index, we mean that the speed is decreasing. Both of these are inversely proportional to each other. So from here option C is correct. Which shows that as the concentration increases, refractive index increases while the speed decreases. Question number 24. A thin converging lens is used to produce a sharp image of a candle. So here is a thin converging lens. It is used to produce the image of the candle. The candle is placed at this position while there is a screen on which image is shown. Various sharp images are produced on the screen by moving the lens and the screen backwards and forwards. Which statement is always correct? MCQs A. The image is at principal focus, focal point of the lens. B. The image is bigger than the object. C. The image is closer to the lens than the object. D. The image is inverted. So in this figure, we can see here, first of all, candle is placed in this position like the flame is upward, but the image shown here shows that flame is downward. So this image is actually inverted. It means that from here D option is correct, which shows that image is inverted. Question number 25. Which rose gives the approximate speed at which ultraviolet waves travel in the air and in the vacuum? So ultraviolet waves are actually the electromagnetic waves. I write here electromagnetic waves. And all of the electromagnetic waves travel with the speed of light, which is equal to 3.0 into 10 ki power 8 meter per second. So here we have to tick the answer that describes correctly the speed of ultraviolet waves into the air and into the vacuum. So first of all, here is given the speed in air and speed in vacuum, and it is measured in meter per second. MCQs A. 340 3.0 into 10 ki power 8. So this is not correct because here 340 is wrong. B. Again 340, 340, it is also incorrect. C, 3.0 into 10 की power 8, this is correct, but 340 is incorrect. D, 3.0 into 10 की power 8, again 3.0 into 10 की power 8. So from here option D is correct because the ultraviolet waves with the speed of light. Question number 26. The diagram represents a sound wave. So here is a sound wave that is shown in this diagram. What are the names of the parts of the sound wave labeled X and Y? So 2 points are labeled here, X and Y. At the X, the wavefronts are very close to each other, but at Y, the wavefronts are further apart. There is a large distance between the wavefronts at location Y. So here X and Y is shown. MCQs: A, amplitude, wavelength; B, compression, rarefaction; C, rarefaction, amplitude; D, wavelength and compression. So first of all, amplitude is the maximum displacement of a body. So here X is the region where the particles are closer to each other. It is compression. While the region where the wavefronts are further apart from each other, this region is rarefaction. Wavelength is basically the distance between two wavefronts. So from here option B is correct, which shows compression and rarefaction. Question number 27. The speed of sound is different in different states of matter. The speed of sound in liquid water is 1500 meter per second. Which row correctly compares the speed of sound in ice and the speed of sound in water vapors with the speed of sound in water? So first of all, here speed of sound in ice, it is measured in meter per second, and speed of sound in steam, which is measured in meter per second. MCQs: A, less than 1500, B, less than 1500, more than 1500, C, more than 1500, less than 1500, D, more than 1500, more than 1500. So first of all, speed of sound is larger in solid as compared to speed of sound in liquid, and even it is greater than speed of sound in gas. It is given that the speed of sound in liquid water is 1500. So this is 1500 meter per second. We have to write here the speed of sound in ice. So the speed of sound in ice should be larger. So it will be more. But the speed of sound in steam is smaller. So it will be less. I simply write here more than 1500 meter per second for sound in ice, speed of sound in ice, while speed of sound in steam is less than 1500 meter per second. From here option C is correct. Question number 28. 3 methods to demagnetize the magnet are suggested. The magnet is in east-west direction. 1. Hitting the magnet repeatedly with the hammer. 2. Heating the magnet until red hot. C. Withdrawing the magnet from a coil which has a direct current DC in it. Which method demagnetize the magnet? MCQs: A, 1, 2 and 3. B, 1 and 2 only. C, 1 and 3 only. D, 2 and 3. So from all of these above methods, only first and second is used for the demagnetization of the magnet, because the magnet cannot be magnetized by using the direct current. So here third is wrong, only 1 and 2 is correct, which is shown by the option B. So from here B is correct. Question number 29. 3 cores of different metal P, Q and R are placed inside the identical coils of wire. At least one of the metal is non-magnetic. The cores are held above some iron nails. The 3 diagram shows what happens when there is a current in the coil. So This diagram shows that when the current is passing through the coil, then what will happen? In the first diagram, we can see that there is a coil P, and when the current is passing through this coil, there will be no effect on the iron nails. They remain at their position. But in the coil Q, the iron nails are attracted towards the coil. Also in the coil R, the iron nails are attracted towards the coil due to the magnetic effect here. Again, 3 diagram below shows what happens when the current is switched off. So when there is no current, then what will happen? In the coil P, again the iron nails remain at their position. In the coil Q, all of the iron nails come back, and in the coil R, there are some nails that are attached with the magnet. Even the switch is off. Which core metals are magnetic? So from here, which one of the following cores are magnet? From here, we can simply say that the core in which the iron nail is not attracted, it is non-magnetic. I write here non-magnetic. All of the other two are magnetic because the iron nails are attracted. So from here Q and R are magnetic. D option is correct. Question number 30. Two uncharged metal spheres X and Y rest on insulating stands and touch each other. A negatively charged plastic rod is brought near to the sphere X. So first of all, we have two metal spheres X and Y. Both of these are neutral. When we place a negatively charged rod close to the sphere X, then what will happen? Using the insulating stand, sphere Y is moved away from the sphere X. What are the signs and the relative magnitudes of the charges induced on the X and Y? So first of all, charge on X and charge on Y is shown. The relative magnitudes of the charges: A, negative, negative equal; B, negative, positive different; C, positive, negative equal; D, positive, positive different. So from here, when the negatively charged rod is brought closer to the metal sphere X, then what will happen? The positive charges appear on the left side, while the equal amount of negative charges appear on the opposite side. Because the negatively charged rod is attracted towards the metal sphere and the opposite charges attract each other, due to which the positive charge appear on the left side of the sphere X, while the equal amount of negative charges goes on the other side of the sphere X. Then the sphere Y is moved away from the sphere X. It means that equal amount of negative charges will be appear here, so that there is repulsion between sphere X and Y, because the opposite charges attract each other and the same charges repel each other. But the number of charges remains equal. The sphere over are neutral. Number of positive charges must be equal to number of negative charges. So from here, positive charge induced on the metal sphere X, while the negative charges appear on the metal sphere Y. But the relative magnitudes of the charges remain equal. So from here, option C is correct. Question number 31. Which two changes to a metal wire both decrease its resistance? Length of the wire, cross-sectional area of the wire. A, decrease, decrease. B, decrease, increase. C, increase, decrease. D, increase, increase. So first of all, we know that resistance is directly proportional to length and it is inversely proportional to cross-section area. When I combine both of these, resistance will be L over A. It means that when we have to decrease the resistance, then its length should be decreased. So I write here decrease length. And when we have to decrease the resistance, its area should be increased. So I write here increase area. So from here, length is decreases while the cross-section area increases. So option A, B is correct. Question number 32. There is a current I in a resistor of resistance R for a time t. The potential difference across the resistor is V. Which equation gives the energy E transferred by the resistor? MCQs: A, E is equal to IR, B, E is equal to IV, C, E is equal to IRT, and D, E is equal to IVT. So first of all, we know that power is the product of current and potential difference. Also, power is equal to rate of transfer of energy. It will be E over T. By comparing both of these equations, left hand side is equal, so their right hand side must be equal. I write here E over T is equal to IV. So from here E is equal to I, V and T. It means that energy is the product of current, potential difference and time. So from here D option is correct. Question number 33. A resistor R is connected in parallel with an 8.0 ohm resistor. The resistance of this combination is 4.0 ohm. What is the resistance of the resistor R? So first of all, here a figure is shown in which there is a resistance whose resistance is 8.0 ohm, and the second resistance is shown whose value we have to find out. It is also given that the combined resistance of this circuit is 4.0. As you can see here that both of these resistors are in parallel. So I write 1 over R is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R. So RE is actually the resistance of the combination or the resistance of this whole circuit, while R1 is 8.0 ohm and R is given here. So from here we have to find out the value of R. Now I am going to rearrange this equation. 1 over R is equal to 1 over RE minus 1 over R1. So RE is 4.0 minus 1 over 8.0. This is basically the value of 1 over R, and we have to find out the value of R. So it will be equal to 8.0 ohm. It means that here R is equal to 8.0 ohm. So from here D option is correct. Question number 34. A student designs a circuit to use as a dimmer switch for a lamp. Here is the circuit shown. 2 points X and Y are shown. There is also the lamp that is attached here. What happens to the brightness of the lamp and the potential difference across the lamp when the slider is moved from X to Y? So first of all, we have to move this slider from X to Y. Then what will happen to the brightness of the lamp and the potential difference across the lamp? So first of all, we can see here as the slider is moving towards the Y, length goes on decreasing. When the length decreases, it means that resistance is also decreasing. So when the resistance decreases, then the potential difference decreases and also the brightness of the lamp. So I tick here brightness of the lamp and potential difference across the lamp is given. MCQs: A, decreases. So from here option A is correct, which shows that the brightness and the potential difference both decreases as the slider is moving from X towards Y. Question number 35. The circuit shown contains two gates. Here are two inputs P and Q and a single output R. This gate is basically NOT gate, while this is OR gate. Which truth table describe the operation of the circuit? Here are four truth tables given here, which are shown A, B, C and D. There are two inputs P and Q. So first of all, I consider here that P is equal to 0 and also Q is equal to 0. First combination of the inputs. Then what will happen? The NOT gate changes into 1 into 0 and 0 into 1. So 0 changes into 1. Again, this 0 comes here and this 1 comes here. 0 and 1 when combined by the OR gate, it gives us 1. Because in the OR gate, when any one of the input is high, the output will be high. So from all of these tables, we can see that in the table A, here is 0, 0, which gives 0 output. So this table is incorrect. B, 0, 0, it also gives 0 output. So second table is also incorrect. For the table C, the output is 1 and also for the D. So the answer is C or D. Then I again check another input, that is 0, 1. So I write here input is 0 and here is 1. So this 0 comes here and 1 changes into 0 when I apply NOT gate. So it will be here 0 and 0 when combined by the OR gate gives the output 0. So first of all I check here when the outputs are 0, 1, then the output is 0. Again 0 and 1 output is 0. So this combination is also correct. Next I check 1 and 0. So here I again use another marker. Here is 1 and 0. 1 comes as it is. When 0 comes, then it changes into 1 by the application of NOT gate. 1 and 1 combines by the OR gate gives the output 1. So when here is 1 and 0, output is 1. In the table C, input is 1, 0, output is 0. So this is also incorrect. But in the D, we can see that here is 1 and 0, output is 1. So D is correct from here. Question number 36. The diagram shows an electromagnet near a coil of wire connected to a voltmeter. The reading on the voltmeter is 0. So first of all, the reading on the voltmeter is 0. We can see here is the electromagnet and this is attached with the switch here. There is also the coil that is wound over a soft iron. A voltmeter is also attached here. The switch is closed. The electromagnet magnetizes quickly. What happens to the reading on the voltmeter? MCQs A. It keeps increasing. B. It quickly increases and stays at maximum. C. It quickly increases and then decreases. D. It stays on 0. So first of all, we can see from here that both of these coils are placed very close to each other. Both of these coils are not connected, but these are linked by the magnetic effect. So first of all, when I on the switch, then what will happen? Current flows through the circuit. When the current flows through the circuit, there will be the magnetic field that is generated in the electromagnet. So there is north pole and south pole. So there is also the magnetic lines of force. Some of these magnetic lines passing through the other coil due to which there is also the induced voltage in this coil, which is measured by the voltmeter V. So first of all, when I increases the current by turning on the switch, then the current goes on increasing so that the voltmeter shows the quick increase in the value of induced voltage and then it decreases. So from here option C is correct. So from here option C is correct. Question number 36. Question number 37. Which graph shows the voltage output of an AC generator with the peaks and zeros correctly labeled? So here is figure A, which shows that first of all here is peak and then it is constant. So this is not the output of the AC generator because there are only peaks in the output of AC generator. In the second diagram we can see that the peaks are shown but the voltage is only in one direction. It is not alternating. There must be the voltage in downward direction. So this diagram is also incorrect. C, we can see here this curve is basically the output voltage of the AC generator, but here the peaks are mentioned correctly but zeros are not mentioned because 0 is the location at this point. So this diagram is also incorrect. In the MCQs D, we can see here the peaks are labeled. This point, this one, these are all of the peaks, while the zeros are also mentioned correctly. So option D is correct here. Question number 38. Three students are describing the structure of an atom. Student 1, all the positively charged particles are in the nucleus. Student 1, all the positively charged particles are in the nucleus. 2, positively electrons are in the nucleus. Student 3, negative electrons orbit around the nucleus. Which students are making a correct statement? MCQs A, 1, 2 and 3. B, 1 and 2 only. C, 1 and 3 only. D, 2 and 3 only. So from here we know that all of the positive charges lies in the nucleus and the electrons orbit around the nucleus in the shells. So the student 2 says that the positive electrons, so it is incorrect because the electrons are negatively charged. So the statement of the second student is incorrect. From here 1 and 3 is correct, which is shown by the C. So from here option C is correct. Question number 39. When alpha particles are incident on the thin metal foil, most of them pass through undeviated. What does this observation reveal about the nature of the atom? So most of the alpha particles passes straight forward. We have to explain the observation that can be deduced from this. MCQs A, the atom has a dense nucleus. B, the atom is mostly empty space. C, the atom is very small. D, the nucleus of an atom is positively charged. So it is due to the reason that the most part of the atom is empty. That's why the alpha particle goes straight forward. So from here option B is correct, which shows that the atom is mostly empty spaces. Question number 40. A laboratory worker measures the count rate from a radioactive source. He records his result in a table. So here is the table that shows the time measured in minutes and count rate, which is count per second. So first of all time is 0 minute, count rate is 100. 1 minute 73 counts per second. 2.0 minute 54 count per second. 3.0 minute 41 counts per second, and at 4.0 minutes count rate is 31. The average background radiation in the laboratory is 8 counts per second. What is the half-life of the source? So basically here we have to find out the half-life of the source. Half-life is a time during which half of the element of the radioactive substance decay. So first of all, the count rate initially is 100 counts per second, and we have to subtract the average background count rate. So I write here total count rate will be equal to 100 minus background count rate, which is 8. So it will be equal to 92 count per second. So here we have to subtract the count rate that is due to the background radiation. So first of all, here I make a table. So here I write total count rate after subtracting the background radiation. So first of all, initially is 92, again 73 minus 8, which is equal to 65, 54 minus 8, it is equal to 46, 41 minus 8, which is equal to 33, and 31 minus 8 is equal to 23. So here will be 23. So we have to find out the half-life. Initially the sample contains 92 count rate or counts per second. When first half-life pass, then the half of this amount decay. It means that the count rate remains half after the first half-life. So when first half-life pass, count rate will be 46. It means that here it is shown 46 counts per second and time is 2.0, which shows that half-life is 2.0 minutes. After 2.0 minutes, the count rate remains half. So here half-life will be equal to 2.0 minutes.